Okay. So I screwed up and I used Firefox, and you guys know it doesn't stream well on Firefox. I screwed up. So now I'm on Chrome. Should be coming through good. If it's coming through good, give me a thumbs up or make a comment there. Really appreciate it. Sorry about that. I forget sometimes, and I usually use Firefox, and then I forget when I go to live stream that it doesn't stream good on YouTube. Anyways, so let's see. I got that's doing better. That work I did on my really helped. Yeah. Still a little bit sore right there. Right there. That is like a trigger point, they call it. You guys know what I'm talking about? A trigger point? If you go to massage school, you'll learn that a trigger point is a specific spot, like an acupressure point, that's sensitive. And the more sensitive these places are, the more your body is screaming, hey, this is where we need to be stimulated. And people will go to acupuncturists and they'll put needles in their bodies. But really, all they need to do is take some time and flex and extend, massage, flex and extend, and create movement. If you create movement, then you can feel specifically where it's sore. You get like a general idea. And then you use your fingers to stimulate that region, and then you can pinpoint. And if you dig deeper, you can pinpoint it even more specific. And that's how massage therapists get to, like, you'll be getting a massage and you'll feel like, wow, yeah, they're getting it more. They're digging it deeper and deeper and pinpointing it more and more to the point of where you're just like, ah! And they're really digging stuff out of your body. Okay, let's see if I did good with changing over to Chrome. Hello, all good. I like the picture of Spock behind you. See, there are certain things that lead me to believe that a person is logical, for lack of a better word. And if somebody really likes Leonard Nimoy or Spock, that's a good sign. That's a good sign for that person. But yeah, let's see. What else needs to be worked on here? So as I was saying earlier, your fingernails are great massage tools. And they're specifically for very, surface work, just scratching. And also, you can really do some good gua sha. So I'll show you what a gua sha tool looks like. This is a jade. That's a jade gua sha tool. And it's got an edge on it that lends itself to being able to massage places that have pent up fascia. So the fascia is underneath the skin. You have this layer of connective tissue underneath your skin called fascia. And connective tissue is for, like connective tissue is what holds your muscles and bones and everything together, tendons and ligaments. But you also have this big bag of connective tissue that's just under your skin called fascia. And that fascia can have like little striations, little tight places. And if you take a tool like this and you run it over that fascia, you can feel if you have a lot of that. And it helps to break it up. But you can also use your nails. And it's not as aggressive, it's not as deep, it's more superficial. So like I said before, what you want to do is flex and extend again. And that's what you do, you just keep testing. The more range of motion you get, the more you're succeeding in your efforts. And then when you do that, you feel for where it's sore. So I'm feeling it in here. If you're sore the next day from doing this, it's okay. Think of it as a good workout. Test it again. Aha, that feels better, but I can still feel pain and tension and tightness in here. So you can just work on one area of your body for long periods of time. That this is exactly what I need. So I might as well show you what you probably need too. Because everybody's arms get sore and tight and full of knots. saw your video on bluebirds and now I'm here. Hmm. So that is feeling amazingly better. But I'm just going to keep on working on it and getting it even better. So just imagine how many people are out there right now thinking about their carpal tunnel syndrome surgery that they're going to get. And they've paid so much money to the medical industry for their health insurance. And so they think that they're entitled to their operation. All they have to do is do this kind of work on their arms, but nobody taught them how to do it. So they're you-know-what out of luck. So they'll get their operation, and then they'll be sore, and their bodies will have to heal. And they won't have as much range of motion, they won't have as much functionality. Their bodies will never function as good as they once did if they had simply done the work and learned how to dig out the pain by testing the region, by stretching it, feeling for where it's sore and tight, and then digging out the tension and pain. You can do them one at a time. 2 at a time, 3 at a time, 4 at a time. Mm-hmm. I'm getting jiggy with it here. I'm telling you. Jiggy, baby. So there's 3 layers of muscle in your forearms. 3 layers. Deep, intermediate, superficial. If you do this, you'll probably be able to feel the tension in these muscles right here. If you do this, popping over those muscles, and it hurts, and it probably will, you know, you need to do this. Many, many strokes. So this is the advantage of self-massage, because you could give a massage therapist from $50 to $150 an hour to do this for you. Or you could just do it yourself regularly all the time. So the average person out there will spend that much time, an hour or two, watching the news or watching whatever. I'm not included. But imagine all of the people that have educated themselves and understand and know the value of doing this, and they actually spend the time doing it. How many people out of a million do it? 1 out of a million? How many people need to do this out of a million? Every single one of them. How many people do it out of a million? 1 or 2? Maybe 10? Maybe? Probably not. Probably a half a dozen, maybe, actually understand the benefits of doing massage, self-massage. These strokes have to be done over and over and over again to get good results, because these muscles, they get so bound, they get so tight, especially these. And if you don't dig them, just keep digging and digging and digging and digging these muscles. Mm. So now I'm going to take a break, and I'm just going to sit peacefully. Hmm. Hmm. I would like to breathe some essential oils and read to you a 100-year-old book that my friend Linda sent to me. In fact, I have a bunch of them. Okay. So the other day I bought some patchouli. And you guys know this is the ultimate hippie essential oil, right? If you don't, now you do. Oh my God, it's so good. Might as well do it up. Hmm. I also really like eucalyptus. But next time I'm going to buy a bigger bottle. Man, that's so good. Oh, it's really strong. So, my friend Linda, my wonderful friend Linda, that's like a kind of a mom friendish person that I really love and care about, that lives in Oregon, sent me all of these little books. And these are called The Aquarian Age. And there's still a group on Facebook. There's a group on Facebook that follows these. And they are kind of Christian-y, but they are also kind of New Agey, sort of like the Course in Miracles. But these books are 100 years old. See that? Those books, these actual books, not like copies, not like reproductions or reissues. These actual books are 100 years old. And I'm going to pick out this one. This one is October of 1921. October of 21. So this is 100 years old and 2 months. And it costs 15 cents. You can get the yearly one for $1.50. Get it every month for $1.50. The Aquarian Age, an advanced thought magazine. The Christ teaching of love and service, divine healing. The unfolding of latent soul powers, esoteric astrology, etc. Let's open to a random page. Companionship. Oh, how much it means to the child when father and mother are its companions. Would you have your children confide in you? Be convinced you must first take them into your confidence. Be a playfellow with them. Enter into their joys and sorrows. Feel with and for them. Unless you do, your children will grow farther and farther away from you. Make the home a gathering place for your children's friends. Provide little surprises for them at their play, glasses of lemonade, a plate of wholesome cookies, or some other simple refreshment. Plan an occasional outing for the children and their friends, and go with them yourself. There are plenty of ways and means at your disposal if you will seek for them. Thus you shall avoid the heartache of unloving, ungrateful, and home-forsaken children. And thus also shall father and mother become in their eyes the loveliest persons in all the world. In this connection, I would suggest the reading of Mother Carey's Chickens by Kate Douglas Wiggin. Once again, this is a 100-year-old book. A little magazine that people got in the mail, probably. Sympathy, too, is a powerful binder. One day a father was busy at a most exciting bit of writing. His little daughter with hurt hand came running in, tearfully displaying the injury. Unheeding this claim of his love and sympathy, the father went on with his sermon. The crying child stood as it stood it as long as she could, turned her on her heel, and with a deep sense of utter neglect, tugging at her heartstrings, stamped her foot, exclaiming in bitter assent, "You might as least have said, oh." Okay. So the way people write is a bit different. It's a little bit hard for me to get. So it's going to take some practice. This was 100 years ago. You might have at least said, oh. She asked for bread and he gave her a stone. She asked for bread and he gave her a stone. Besides, he put up a barrier between himself and the soul of his daughter that long years may not destroy. For such hurts and slights sink deeply into the subconscious reservoir. Without doubt, his father had of a fund of tenderness in his heart, for he was a loved pastor, but lacking appreciation of relative values. The sermon at the moment being to him a greater importance than neglect of one of God's little ones, he was caught off his guard. Yeah, so my thoughts on that are that things have only gotten worse in the last 100 years. And in a post on Facebook, I mentioned someone had asked what a good Christmas present would be for their kids. And I put that you give them some of your time talking to them. And several people really liked that, but he didn't respond. And the reason that I wrote that is because I honestly think that. I honestly think that for me, I don't know about you, maybe your parents spent a lot of time with you, but I would have really loved to have spent a lot more time with my parents, I think. But perhaps it was in my better interest that I didn't, because I've come to these realizations about how poor people are, how low quality people are. And so maybe it's better for me that I was just on my own as I was. Let's read The Law of Cycles by Ursula Rexford B.S. B.S. All beings are subject to the law of rhythm. Evolution is a curve, eternity a cycle. Rhythm means a time measure. When a succession of auditory or visual stimuli is perceived as a succession of groups, we have the perception of rhythm. Under analysis, the perception of rhythm proves to be a series of sensations which recur at regular intervals and show a regular variation of intensity. Throughout the natural world, we are constantly meeting this law of rhythm and period, period, periodicity. Periodicity. How do you pronounce that? Periodicity. Periodicity. In the different seasons, day and night, the growth and fall of foliage, the fluctuation of temperature, and the ebb and flow of the tides. In fact, every act of life is associated with it. If anything goes out of life, something comes to take its place. Presence does not exist without absence. What is upon its flight of farewell is already on its long path of return. What the mind suffered last week or year, it does not suffer now, but it will suffer again next week or next year. Happiness is not a matter of events. It depends on the tides of the mind. Disease is the metrical closing in at shorter and shorter intervals towards death. I'll read that one again. Disease is the metrical closing in at shorter and shorter periods towards death, sweeping abroad at longer and longer intervals toward recovery. The more rhythmical our lives become, the more harmonious they are. Let me close the door real quick. A straight line or the breaking of the rhythm of life causes disintegration and death. Thus change is the base upon which our very existence depends. For in order that the rhythm may be established, we must have our ups and downs. I really like that. A straight line or the breaking of the rhythm of life causes disintegration or death. Thus change is the base upon which our very existence depends. For in order that the rhythm may be established, we must have our ups and downs. The cart could not progress were it not for the revolution of the wheel. Up, then down, up, then down. Actually, down, then up, then down. So it is in our lives we progress through our mistakes and disappointments and our willingness to rise out of them. We must realize that they are nothing but the motion of the cyclic law of vibration. Nothing is constant but change. Nothing is everything is becoming. Rest is only unseen energy. From the smallest to the greatest events in our lives, we must travel with the revolution of the wheel of life. And if we resist or seek to prevent its motion, we are only ground under its rim until we learn that the lesson is not the lesson not to be caught in the process of our unfoldment. Until we learn the lesson not to be caught in the processes of our unfoldment. Life then is not only rhythmical but also mathematical. Many people can measure the rhythm in periods of numerical years when certain conditions are manifest in the life that have occurred before. We might divide the span of a human life mathematically into 9 revolutions of 9 cycles each, within which are the smaller cyclic revolutions of the years, months, and days, making cycles within cycles, all fraught with events of tremendous importance to the growth of the individual. In former times, this cycle was determined in degrees of seven minor cycles with 10 major cycles, thus creating the span of man's life of 70 years and 10, 70 years of biblical lore. No doubt the majority of people, due to their ignorance of these finer laws of life, are still limiting themselves to this period, and many never even live that long. But the awakened individual of today may not only attain to 9 times 9 years, but continue to live long beyond it in a super cycle of consciousness, provided he realizes his God-given powers. See, this is 100 years old, this book. I'm holding something that is almost twice as old as I am. Each cycle of our lives, and this book came out just after World War I. Each cycle of our lives is made up of certain lessons which can be mathematically determined, and these must be learned before we can progress. And if we are stubborn and refuse to learn, we are still promoting along with the class, but have back work to make up, so that in time we become so burdened with unlearned lessons that we fall by the wayside, one of life's failures. It then behooves each and everyone to determine whether he has learned the lessons of the different periods of his life, and if he is carrying conditions that no longer represent him, to be done with them and pass on to the next lesson. This is so cool. Here's a little poetry or something. It reads, there is a hard school kept by life, with pupils sad and white, and some shed tears like falling rain, through the dreary night. And some cross languid, wrist on wrist, and some say it is their fate, and others sit with knitted brow and fill the heart with hate. But those who study very hard and learn that pain can bless may go out in a leafy yard and play with happiness. Go out in a leafy yard and play with happiness. Nice. The physical body renews itself every 7 years, so the physical cycle of the individual may be said to consist of 7 years. The animal individual, who lives solely to eat, sleep, and be merry, lives in this cycle and misses the higher side of life. It is probably due that he commences to die mentally and soulfully about 14 years of age and reaches mature life, a walking corpse at 14. I suppose that's what that means. It was to these people that Jesus referred when he said, "Let the dead bury the dead." If we were to have a funeral of all the people who were really dead, though very much alive physically, the world would be greatly depopulated. Our streets in any city are simply a moving graveyard. The mental cycle of those who are solely interested in the intellectual and commercial side of life runs into octaves. Thus, the eighth period is, in reality, the first of another period of 7, but little in advance of the physical cycle. But the soulful individual who is awakened to the spiritual verities comes under the cyclic law of 9. Because this is the law under which every individual should place himself, we will consider this cycle rather than the others. Broadly speaking, then, life should be divided into 3 grand cycles of 27 years duration, although it generally averages about 21 to 25 years according to the consciousness of the individual. During each period, certain lessons should be specialized in, and these in turn are composed of minor lessons, so that the chart of an entire life would represent wheel within wheel, or like the motion caused on the surface of a lake from dropping a stone into the center, ripples merging into ripples and extending into the distance. The first 27 years should be a personal cycle in which the individual is finding himself, and he should be concerned chiefly with the development of his character and special talents. That's your first 27 years. Concerned chiefly with the development of his character and special talents. If we observe the characteristics of an infant, we notice that its first stage of development is personal. It is not conscious of others about it except in an impersonal manner. It is more interested in itself. It is very conscious of its feet, but does not relate them to the body and tries to grab them. It also wants to draw everything to itself and will pull the tablecloth to anything it can reach. It has no sense of responsibility. I don't know that I buy into all of that, but this then is similar to the first period in which youth is spent and in which the individual is more or less full or self. This is necessary in order to establish a character and an individuality. This corresponds to the physical cycle, for the most rapid changes in the body take place during this period. Here the child must become individualized, to think for itself, to be original, to create, to be self-reliant, able to follow its own initiative. But due to the crushing out process, in the form of education that has been in vogue, children as a rule reach 9 years of age with the destructive side of these characteristics developed. They are imitators, parrots, dependent, unable to think alone or to create. In many cases, they go through life and never have learned even the first step in the unfoldment of a character, to think. Whoever this person was, they were pretty on it. They are imitators, parrots, dependent, unable to think alone or to create. In many cases, they go through life and never have learned even the first step in unfoldment of a character, to think. It has been said that the average individual would rather lie down and die than to do a little thinking. It is so difficult. So if an individual wishes in middle life to build himself into a more perfected soul, he must begin again as a little child, and this is the first lesson he must teach himself. If you wish to test yourself where you are on the path, ask yourself if you have above characteristics developed within you, the above characteristics developed within you. It is probably true that more people will fail in the first test than in any other because we start out in life to have our thinking done for us, first by our parents and then by our teachers, and later by public approval. This is a 100-year-old book, 1921, October of 1921. It is probably true that more people will, oh, did I read that? Yeah. How many people will dare not to wear an unbecoming garment that is in vogue? Fashion decrees a certain style, young and old, fat and thin, ugly and beautiful. They all rush in to adopt it. What is the result? There are so few well-dressed people in any season who really in any season who are really a joy to look at, that you can almost count them on your fingers. Fashion has decreed that women shall wear black this fall, and regardless of the fact that it is the most destructive color known, all the developed people will rush to adopt it and plunge our nation into a wave of depression and gloom from which it will take years to recover. The most immoral countries in the world are those in which black is used universally. Then why should we adopt a color that will prove disastrous, especially to our young children? I do not advocate being freakish in dress and utterly ignoring prevailing styles, but I do believe that each individual should study the style that is most becoming and adhere to it, modifying it in harmony with the prevailing mode and yet be individualized. In a world in which so many people wear the same clothes, live in the same houses, eat the same dinners, and say the same things, blessed are the individuals who are not lost in the mob, who have their own thoughts and their own lives. 100-year-old book. See? So there were people 100 years ago. If you think about it, we would imagine that there were individualist thinkers 100 years ago. That's what these little books are all about. The Aquarian. So those of you that are Aquarians, who were born in, what is it, January through February, that's the sign of Aquarius. And the sign of Aquarius, people that are Aquarians are individual thinkers. They're out of the box thinkers. They don't just buy into everything that's told to them. And it's such a cool sign that it's considered to be the king of all signs in astrology. And so that's what these books, I assume, are all about, you know. These little books that my friend Linda sent to me. I have 6 of them. And who knows, you might be able to find these on like eBay. The Aquarian Age books. This one's from, I'm not sure. Oh, this one's October of 34. This one's a little, I guess these ran for a long time then. This one's 1921. This one's 22. This one is 1919. I think the First World War ended in 1918, was it? This one's 22 and this one's 21. But yeah, those are cool to read. 7 people watching. Picture quality is horrible. I'm sorry to hear that. I'm using Chrome. Is it still bad? So anyways, I think I'll end it. I appreciate everybody watching me tonight. I hope you enjoyed those readings. I hope you learned about doing massage from watching me. It really takes time and a lot of deep work on places that are chronic, you know, places that have been causing you grief for a long time. That feels a lot better for me now, not near as painful. I still need to get more range of motion out of that because, like, look at that one. See, the thing with the left arm is that it's not near as active. The left arm, or your non-dominant arm, for most of you, your left hand, is the one that holds things still. It doesn't do these things. It doesn't, you know, it doesn't do more technical things. It just holds things still. And so you'll find that most people have the carpal in their left arm more, the tightness and tension in their left arm. And that's because when you do motion, when you have something that's doing, like, creating motion, that gets rid of that lactic acid buildup in the muscles faster and easier. Whereas if you're just holding something, but you're not moving, you know, I'm doing something, I'm moving with my right hand, but I'm just holding stiff with my left. That's not as good, and that's why it's really important to do as much ambidextrously as you can, moving that left arm, or right arm if you're left-handed. So yeah, I hope everybody has a good day tomorrow, whether you're celebrating Christmas or not. I hope everybody has a good day every day. But, you know, that's just not the reality of life. Sometimes we have horrible days, difficult times. And we just have to, I think the key is doing your best just to get through those difficult times. What more can you do? But thanks for joining me, everybody, and I hope that you are well. Go to brettsnaturalhealth.com and get yourself a nice pillow or a foot friend or something like that. You could at least get a skin brush like this and brush your whole bod. And that largest organ of elimination, your skin. So thanks so much and have a great night.